bodies visiting us today. There are accounting and auditing firms as well. The banking sector has also joined us. Academic institutions are here as well. The different agencies of GPG have also joined us today. The PAC, Provincial Audit Committee members are also here, and some GPT senior members. So all of you are welcome. Just a reminder that in the gallery you cannot participate in the proceedings in the House. Regarding apologies, I have received the following requests. Member Alberts, but if he's attending virtually, he's present. So he's deemed as present in the meeting. Member Lien Dijager is on party business. Member Kingsol Chabalala is on academic commitments. Okay, Member Poho is writing exams, and Member Makwala is on party business. We are now proceeding with our meeting, honorable members. I now call on the Secretary to please read the first order.
Thank you, Speaker. The first order is the introduction of the Gauteng Provincial Adjustment Appropriation Bill G003 of 2024 and the medium-term budget policy statement for the 2024-2025 financial year. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chilwani. I now call on the MEC for 5 minutes. MEC Maile. Good morning.
No, ki rile ki tle le ona premier. Ki tswere mo raska be ya go banke. Madam Speaker, Honorable Premier, Deputy Speaker, members of the Executive Council, members of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature, leaders of various political parties, MMCs for finance, provincial leadership of SALGA, Gauteng leaders of business, labor and civil society, the residents of Gauteng, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. In the movie Troy, one of the most epic Greek mythologies, Odysseus, renowned for his intellectual brilliance, guile, and versatility, opens by saying, and I quote, "Men are haunted by vastness of eternity." And so we ask ourselves, will our actions echo across the centuries? Will strangers hear our names long after we are gone and wonder who we are, how bravely we fought, how fiercely we loved? And I close quote. This generation of South Africans, Honorable Premier, has survived insurmountable odds. We have lived through 2 devastating pandemics, the HIV/AIDS pandemic, whose effect continues to be felt in the new millennium, and the catastrophic COVID-19 pandemic that wreaked havoc in our public health system and national economy. We endured the 2008 global economic recession that had a devastating impact on our financial and job security, and whose effect have also lingered over a decade after banking systems across the world were reduced to nothing. We have also been confronted with numerous national, regional, and global disasters, bearing witness to genocides, massacres, and political instabilities that have often brought humanity dangerously close to the brink of annihilation. The result of this has been a notable decline in the quality of life, particularly in developing countries, and even more so in those countries in the global south that are still recovering from the vagaries of colonialism, imperialism, and the might of neoliberalism that brought us devastating structural adjustments whose lingering effects are seen on the continent. Our ability to achieve much sought after human well-being, freedoms, and capabilities has been negatively impacted. And yet, for us in South Africa, these challenges that pose an existential crisis for the world as we know it have only inspired us to summon our collective energies to rewrite the narrative. The Gauteng Provincial Government has understood and continues to understand our responsibilities to the future. We are guided by the knowledge and understanding that we do not inherit the earth from our ancestors. We borrow it from our children. The Gauteng Provincial Government 2024 medium-term budget policy statement sets out an inclusive growth and development agenda that is aimed at addressing the fiscal challenges confronting the province and the interventions that are underway to alleviate them. Despite being the smallest province in South Africa by geography, covering only 1.5% of the country's total land area, Gauteng is the largest province by population size and population density. In 1994, the province had a total population of 7.6 million people. This population has doubled since then, standing at just over 15.9 million as of the 2022 census data. This is a quarter or 25% of the total population in South Africa. The political context in which the medium-term budget policy statement is being tabled is one of evolutionary change in the party political system of South Africa. The seventh administration of the province governs through a government of provincial unity, whose commitment to the sustainable development of Gauteng is evidenced in the comprehensive agreement on service delivery imperatives that are anchored on inclusive growth, public participation partnerships for infrastructure and social development, civil society engagements, and the professionalization of the public service as a mechanism for building a developmental state. This commitment has been strengthened by a collective and supportive environment and an emphasis on the quality of reforms and delivery. The Gauteng province is the nerve center of the national and regional economy. Gauteng's economy is diverse with the financial sector, manufacturing and logistics as key contributors to the economic landscape. Gauteng as the financial hub of South Africa accounts for just over 33% of the country's overall gross domestic product. Nationally, financial services contribute about 21% of the South Africa's GDP, but while Gauteng stands out as an economic powerhouse, it faces complex socio-economic challenges, including high unemployment, poverty, and income inequality. Unemployment is high, especially amongst the youth, with rates nearing 40%. Approximately 27% of households live below the poverty line, and Gauteng's Gini coefficient of 0.63 highlights deep-seated income inequality, exacerbated by geographic disparities between affluent areas and under-resourced communities. The province is emerging from the calamitous effect of the COVID-19 global pandemic that devastated the provincial and national economies. During the sharp contraction of 2020, South Africa's GDP declined by 6.2% to 4.30 trillion in 2015. Following this, the economy rebounded with 5% growth in 2021, reaching 4.51 trillion. but this was off a low base set during COVID-19 pandemic. Therefore, whilst it is welcome, limited its impact on the triple challenges of unemployment, poverty, and structural inequality. Growth has been slow in the subsequent years. The pandemic created instabilities in the local and global markets, significantly impacting production and manufacturing, which are instrumental to the Gauteng economy. This has resulted in significant fiscal constraints that have had an impact on the provincial economy, with numerous key industries in the province struggling to reach pre-pandemic levels of production and revenue. Fiscal constraints have affected social services and a wide range of government programs. The 2024 economic outlook points to a gradual recovery across various sectors, with some industries showing resilience while others continue to face challenges. In response to these challenges, the Gauteng Provincial Treasury implemented the Revenue Enhancement Strategy, which focuses on maximizing revenue collection to resource provincial priorities within the challenging economic and fiscal environment. While own revenue accounts for only 5% of the provincial budget, these resources go a long way in supplementing the funding of key priorities, including infrastructure, maintenance, and development, as well as the creation of employment opportunities. While this marks significant progress in the stabilization of the provincial economy, there is still a long road to growing the economy to ensure sustainability, inclusivity, and transformation. Madam Speaker, the global interest rate environment has become more accommodating. As of October 2024, South Africa's annual consumer price inflation stood at 2.8%, down from 3.8% in September 2024. Consumer price inflation has cooled off for a fifth consecutive month, marking the lowest inflation rate since June 2022, when the rate was 2.2%. Tight monetary policy stances by the Reserve Bank are expected to further reduce inflation. Core inflation remains elevated, driven by rapid service price growth and stubborn wage inflation. Furthermore, oil prices have been volatile due to factors such as production cuts by the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, which is OPEC. This render near-term oil price forecast uncertain, and the volatility could lead to price spikes in if supply disruptions occur. In addition to this, geopolitical tensions such as ongoing Russia-Ukraine war and the political instability within the Southern Development Community region, which is SADC. Other lingering risks persist, including the ongoing downturn in China's key markets. This, alongside escalating trade tensions between China and the United States, as well as the economic decline of South Africa's key trading partners, such as Germany, has led to slowing investment and reduced consumption that could lead potentially impact South Africa's growth and growth prospect for the Gauteng economy. Global economic performance, particularly among South Africa's major trading partners, has often had an influence on the performance of the domestic sectors of the economy. The South African economy, which is currently the lowest in the emerging market, is forecast to grow by 1.1% in 2024, after expanding by 0.4% in the second half of 2024, following a contraction of 0.1% in the first half, and is projected to grow by an annual average of 1.8% over the next 3 years. In contrast, emerging markets and developing economies are expected to maintain a growth rate of 4.3% in 2024, remaining the same in 2025. Due to economic activity being expected to be just over 1% for both the country and the province by the end of 2024, tax revenue is expected to remain relatively low. As of 30 September 2024, the South African Revenue Services collected a net revenue of 846.2 billion, which is lower than expected due to lower than expected collections from custom taxes, pay-as-you-earn, and the general fuel levy. As taxes are used to fund substantial proportion of government expenses, under collection means a decrease in what provinces will be allocated. This decline in revenue is occurring in the context of the downward revision of the provincial equitable share, which is the largest source of revenue. Although domestic recovery has been slow, the outlook for South Africa and its provincial economies has improved due to global economic trends and domestic factors such as stabilizing energy and logistics. However, this improvement is inadequate for addressing some of the more salient challenges that confront the Gauteng province. There is a need to contain the budget deficit from the national and provincial government. The subdued performance of the provincial economy underscores the need for stronger policy measures to accelerate growth and tackle poverty and unemployment. Economic growth is the source of sustainable government revenues and ensures long-term fiscal stability, without which tackling inequality will be particularly difficult. Honorable Premier, Gauteng's municipalities are on a low growth trajectory. The most recent Gauteng socio-economic revenue and outlook published in 2024 indicates that economic activity in Gauteng municipalities saw a modest growth of 0.6% with marginal increases of 1.3% and 2.8% projected for 2024 and 2025 respectively. These minimal growth rates poses a threat to the province's developmental goals, specifically in reducing poverty and addressing high unemployment. Furthermore, the audit outcomes of the Gauteng municipalities indicates significant governance challenges, particularly in terms of compliance. Compliance with legislation is not improving and remains a stumbling block towards good governance, as most municipalities still did not comply with procurement legislation. The most common findings identified by AG with respect to the challenges impacting the performance of municipalities relates to expenditure management, unauthorized, irregular, and fruitless wasteful expenditure, procurement and contract management, material misstatements or limitations in submission of annual financial statements, and consequence management. Some progress was made where municipalities investigated unauthorized, irregular, and fruitless and wasteful expenditure. Additionally, disciplinary boards were established to deal with cases of financial misconduct. Madam Speaker, the Gauteng provincial government commitment to support municipalities in enhancing their revenue capabilities ongoing. We have a multi-pronged approach in giving support to municipalities. The provincial treasury has received numerous municipalities' annual state claims, which is the account for municipal property rates. These will be processed provided they are in order. The Gauteng Debt Committee will be the driving force behind the process. The committee will expand its mandate to include national departments and parastatals within the municipal fiscal period of 2024-2025. Electricity is the biggest source of revenue for the fiscal base of municipalities. The income municipalities derive from the said income stream finances a number of functions that may not be independently revenue generating. It is for this reason that we deem the electricity business as important. Thus, the provincial treasury has embarked on an assistance program to all municipalities through the population of the tariff setting tool to ensure that all trading services will be cost reflective and aligned to tariffs approved by Randwater, the National Energy Regulation of South Africa, and other entities. Training has been conducted to aid municipalities in the usage of the tariff setting tool and the property rate reconciliation tool. The Gauteng Provincial Treasury will be assisting Mfuleni and Merafong City local municipalities, which are currently under the financial recovery plan, to conduct an electricity cost of supply study to get their tariffs to be cost effective. Because we recognize the electricity business, that the electricity business is cross-subsidizing and finances municipal operations, we want to support our municipalities with cost efficiencies. This will improve and enhance their revenue service delivery. The national government, through the National Treasury, launched the debt relief package on municipal electricity debt owed to Eskom. There are several conditions, all essentially aimed at restoring a set of basic minimum financial management best practice in municipalities that are owing Eskom. The key objective of these conditions is to change the municipal culture of not paying bulk services, which impacts on their own financial health and ability to continue with the provision of essential services such as bulk electricity and water. Several Gauteng municipalities were granted approval by the National Treasury to participate in the Eskom debt relief program. These are Mfuleni, Lesedi, Mrafong, Mogale, and Rand West City local municipalities with a combined ring-fenced amount of just over 1.6 billion. The Rand West City local municipality is the first municipality to receive a write-off of 279.72 million from the ring-fence of 89.72 million after complying with the 14 conditions of the Eskom debt relief program. The National Treasury is currently busy with the financial assessment of Mfuleni local municipality and Mogale City. In due course, the Provincial Treasury will be making an announcement. Energy security is crucial for South Africa and certainly for the Gauteng economy that is reindustrializing through the strengthening of its manufacturing and logistics capacity. The huge debt to Eskom has meant that municipal finances, which are already constrained, had to be directed towards the servicing of the debt to the power utility. And because money is not infinite, when it is directed towards the servicing of debt, it means it is being redirected from other key services that benefit communities. Furthermore, as electricity is a crucial component of livelihood generation for many of our people, energy insecurity will mean that many families' capacity for livelihood generation will be diminished, further deepening an already crippling cost of living crisis. Honorable members, the Gauteng Provincial Government recognizes the vital role of public procurement in driving socio-economic transformation and stimulating economic growth. The gazetting of the new Public Procurement Act into law on 23 July 2024 marks a pivotal step towards achieving these objectives. Although the Act is not yet effective, the Gauteng Provincial Treasury is proactively developing a transformative procurement strategy and policy, cognizant of the opportunities that this Act will accord us. This strategy aims to accelerate preferential procurement spending with a strong focus on designated groups and to ensure that the public procurement becomes a key tool for promoting economic inclusivity. To realize this vision, all Gauteng Provincial Government departments will be required to identify procurement opportunities at the planning stage that prioritizes preferential procurement. This process will be informed by rigorous market research, industry analysis, the transformation levels within the specific sectors, and the availability of micro, small, and medium enterprises owned by designated groups. By embedding these principles into procurement practices, we commit to delivering services efficiently whilst advancing its transformation agenda. The availability and cost of funding is one of the issues that are raised by the MSMEs as an impediment to their effective participation in the procurement activity of government. This administration is engaging funding institutions to improve access to affordable funding options through entering into agreements whereby institutions can leverage instruments like valid purchase orders to lend to SMMEs at preferential rates with transparent terms that are fairly consistent across funding institutions. Some of the commercial banks are already responding positively to this challenge and are entering into agreement with the provincial government to ensure that these costs are more affordable and that the lending terms make funding more accessible and supportive of growth. As the Gauteng provincial government, the focus on reducing the time it takes to settle the invoices of suppliers and services providers will continue to be one of our top priorities as cash flow is critical to the survival of businesses. The 30-day business compliance continues to be a priority for the province to meet the legislative requirements in place. as we also work on 15 days. All 14 departments and entities are focused on facilitating invoice processing to ensure compliance across the province. A directive has been issued to enforce the submission of supplier invoices through the electronic invoice submission system. As of the end of October 2024, more than 202,000 invoices have been received electronically, eliminating the manual submission of invoices by service providers. As a result, 10 departments and 5 entities achieved 100% compliance, while 2 departments recorded compliance rate of 98%, and 1 department achieved 83% for 30-day payment compliance. The digitization of payment service serves to not only fast-track the pace of paying suppliers, but it also aims to eliminate corruption within the supply chain. Automation reduces human interference as well as reduces human error. Supply chain digitization broadly can have a profound impact on the financial health of institutions and is a proven success in business across many industries. And that's why we will be providing more support, more information in the main budget on how we plan to digitize our procurement system. The province has noted with concern a worrying trend of contract variations that frequently surpass the previous normative levels of 20%. In addition to this, there are late deliveries of projects, especially infrastructure projects, as well as incidences of incomplete projects. The Gauteng Provincial Government is committed to enhancing contract management practices to ensure that the projects that government undertakes are completed on time and within budget, in line with the principles of effectiveness, accountability, efficiency, and compliance within the supply chain management framework. To achieve this, the Gauteng Provincial Treasury will conduct compliance assessments and develop comprehensive standard operating procedures for contract management. These SOPs will include clear guidelines for managing supply restrictions in cases of non-performance. Effective contract management will focus on establishing robust supply performance monitoring processes, conducting regular supply performance assessments, and reporting, organizing supplier engagement sessions to identify and address non-performance promptly, and enforcing contractual obligations and taking appropriate action when non-compliance is identified. Through these measures, we aim to strengthen oversight and promote effective implementation of contracts across all institutions, ensuring the delivery of services align the higher standards of performance and accountability. The township economy is South Africa's the township economy in South Africa holds significant potential for growth, with MSMEs serving as critical drivers of economic activity in these areas. However, challenges such as limited access to finance, poor infrastructure, and regulatory barriers hinder the growth of these businesses. By drawing on global models and best practices of informal sector success, particularly in developing countries, Gauteng is implementing strategies to bolster the township economy, anchored on the Township Economic Development Act 2 of 2022, which serves as a framework for these initiatives. The reality that confronts us is that while various government departments have budgets earmarked for township economic development, these departments and entities tend to work in silos, thus struggling to coordinate and harness their potential. Under such circumstances, it is increasingly difficult for the budget to achieve the desired impact, as there is no coordinated township development strategy at the national level that is aligned to the provincial strategies. Madam Speaker, our vision as the Gauteng Provincial Government is to grow the township economy. This has become an imperative for us in light of the devastating development of our residents in townships being exposed to substandard goods and services and hazardous substances that have claimed casualties and unfortunately lives of our kids. The drive to have all spaza shops and food handling facilities registering their business to municipalities is to ensure that we deal with the challenge that communities face. This will assist us to ensure compliance, monitoring, and oversight over these businesses to prevent future outbreaks. We recognize that the incursion in the township market by unscrupulous business persons is linked to the limited growth in the township economy, which particularly lacks manufacturing capacities, setting parameters for the sale of undesirable goods to our residents. Building the productive capacity of township-based enterprises will not only resolve the question of economic inclusivity, sustainable development and economic redress, but will also address the critical issue of creating a multiplier effect that will ensure that money in townships circulates within townships rather than flow out to industries in other specialities and geographies. Madam Speaker, in his medium-term budget policy statement, the Minister of Finance, Mr. Gauteng, laid out a clear strategy to elevate South Africa's economy to a more inclusive and sustainable growth trajectory. His focus on maintaining macroeconomic stability, implementing structural reforms, investing in growth, enhancing infrastructure, and building state capability provides strong framework for economic recovery. One of the key areas he addressed is infrastructure investment, a priority that has been on the agenda for many years. To accelerate progress, he announced several reforms aimed at creating an environment conducive to greater private sector involvement. These amended public-private partnership regulations aimed at simplifying processes to enable provinces to develop PPP projects more efficiently, improved capital budgeting, aimed at strengthening planning and funding mechanisms for large infrastructure projects through specialized financial instruments. Expanded budget facility for infrastructure aimed at introducing multiple submission windows throughout the year to allow more project proposals to be reviewed and supported. Diversified funding options aimed at exploring innovative financing mechanisms that blend public and private resources, thereby increasing the pool of funds available for infrastructure development, and project preparation facilities that are aimed at establishing dedicated units to plan, prepare, and design new projects, ensuring readiness and feasibility before implementation. Infrastructure development remains a key enabler to improve service delivery to our citizens, but also to stimulate economic growth and attract investment. The adjusted estimates of capital expenditure for 2024-2025, as tabled today, present an upward adjustment of 241 million from the main appropriation of 12.9 billion to 13.21 billion due to approved rollovers from the 2023-2024 financial year. Of the total investment, 12.51 billion is allocated to departments of human settlements, health, education, and roads and transport, whilst the remaining 693 is allocated to the departments of economic development, agriculture, rural development and environment, sports, arts, culture and recreation, and Department of Infrastructure. Due to substantial pressures on the fiscus, the province will continue to introduce reforms and innovative delivery options to increase the funding envelope for infrastructure projects. We will issue what we call treasury instruction notes, and the provincial departments and entities are compelled to ensure that infrastructure commitments cannot be entered into for any project for which money has not been appropriated. Provincial departments and entities are required to take cognizance of the pressures on the provincial fiscal envelope and do more with less. Departments are encouraged to make a substantial effort to increase revenue and use existing financial resources for infrastructure projects in an effective and efficient manner to extract value for money. This will include prescribed measures for the acquirement of the immovable assets as well as the utilization of the professional service providers. The Gauteng Provincial Treasury Instruction Notes shall cover infrastructure cost containment measures to reduce wastage and cost inefficiencies that are evident in the infrastructure project. These cost containment measures will also enforce and enhance the effective and efficient use of financial resources and mitigate cost overruns and poor performance. It shall be applicable to provincial departments, entities, and/or implementing agents appointed by the province. We will further manage the overall commitments of infrastructure budget holders through updated and accurate commitment registers. This shall provide a baseline which in essence represent the debt of the province to ensure that the infrastructure commitments are cash-backed. Dedicated actions shall be implemented to ensure that commitments can be honored and that the overall debt of the province is contained in order to stay within budget baseline allocations. Finally, the instruction notes will improve on performance-driven supply chain management for infrastructure projects. The objective here is to implement a revised infrastructure delivery model that vests responsibility and accountability for planning and delivery of infrastructure performance with the relevant budget holder. This includes maintenance and operations of existing infrastructure. The role of the center of government shall be strengthened to deal more decisively and proactively with infrastructure-specific challenges in terms of cost, performance, and compliance. Madam Speaker, on the 11th of April 2024, gantries of the Gauteng Freeway Improvement Project, popularly known as e-toll, were officially disconnected from the e-toll system across the province. Following the initial announcement by Finance Minister Gauteng during 2022 midterm budget policy statement that e-tolls will be scrapped, the South African National Road Agency, the National Department of Transport, National Treasury, and the Gauteng Provincial Government finalized a memorandum of agreement. To resolve the funding impasse, the Gauteng Provincial Government agreed to contribute 30% to settling SANRAL's debt and interest obligations, while the national government will cover 70%. Congruent with this, in the budget speech in March this year, the Gauteng Provincial Treasury announced that as part of the province's arrangements to service the debt, a provision for honoring this commitment has been penciled into 2024 financial framework. The obligation to service this debt has necessitated the implementation of a host of reforms and measures to maintain a healthy fiscal environment that will be both sustainable and manageable in the long term. As the Gauteng Provincial Government, we have a full appreciation of the implications that repaying the e-toll debt will have on our financial position. The debt of 20.1 billion inclusive of interest is a substantial bite into our already stretched and limited resources. The overview that I provided on the state of South African and provincial economy illustrates the seriousness of the financial and economic environment in which we are operating. To meet our obligations to repair this debt, we have had to make very difficult decisions and reorientate our budget priorities, which necessarily will have an impact on the fiscus. This will be particularly pronounced in the 2025 midterm budget expenditure framework, given developments in the provincial equitable share formula, which is recalibrated annually using data from Statistics South Africa and other administrative sources, such as the National Departments of Health and Basic Education, ensures equitable resource allocation. Unfortunately, due to a decline in Gauteng shares of the national population, the province faces further budgetary reductions. Key components such as education, health, and poverty alleviation, which collectively accounts for 91% of the provincial equitable share formula will be affected, creating additional fiscal pressure. But as indicated, this impact will be minimized as far as possible so as to ensure that basic services continue to be provided to the residents of Gauteng. Despite the difficult situation that the repayment of this debt has put us in, it is not all doom and gloom. The resolution of the Gauteng Freeway Improvement Project has unlocked 85 billion rand pipeline for the non-toll network over the next 3 years. That the province will have to pay a substantial amount over the next 5 years towards the cost of the GFIP-1 road network is a short-term pain that should not cause despondency over the future financial trajectory of our province. While we believe in the need for fiscal austerity under this difficult financial and economic climate that we are in, we believe more in service delivery. History has demonstrated in South Africa and elsewhere that fiscal austerity usually has a damaging impact on poor working class communities. Investing in the betterment of our communities is the most sustainable way to ensure inclusive growth and sustainable development. It is also an expression of commitment to redressing historical injustices and that resulted in the disenfranchisement of underprivileged communities that comprise in the main black people. To cut jobs in sectors such as education, health and social services, which constitute a substantial portion of the provincial budget, is an injustice that the Gauteng provincial government is unwilling to perpetuate. Madam Speaker, infrastructure maintenance and development is a key priority for Gauteng provincial government, for we recognize that economic growth and development, including our ability to attract investment, is heavily dependent on functional infrastructure. We are of the view that infrastructure rollout is not merely a response to the increasing demand in the economy, but that it can and must be viewed as a driver of the demand in the economy. It is for this reason that the province established the Gauteng Infrastructure Finance Agency, whose objective is to accelerate the delivery of key infrastructure projects in support of the Gauteng Employment Growth and Development Strategy through project development finance and partnerships. Amongst other things, the agency sources strategic infrastructure projects from provincial departments, municipalities and agencies that require alternative funding, provide innovative funding mechanisms for financing strategic infrastructure projects, and mobilizes investors and developers to finance and implement developed projects. Over the MTEF, a total budget of 37.2 billion is allocated for infrastructure program. Recognizing the need to plan for the future of the growing population and needs, 22 billion of this amount is availed for the maintenance and rehabilitation of existing infrastructure and provide new infrastructure assets in response to the increasing demand for services. There are various infrastructure projects that are underway in all areas, including human settlement, renewable energy, solid waste, water and sanitation, health, transport, ICT, municipal, social services, as well as sport, arts and culture. These include the establishment of one of Africa's first erythropolis cities, which include the expansion of the OR Tambo Airport Precinct and the City of Johannesburg's Alternative Waste Treatment Technology Project, which is a solution to the challenge and aims to reduce waste landfill of about 500,000 and generate about 25 megawatts of energy from municipal solid waste material generated from the municipal areas. Other projects underway include the West Rand Mega Agri Park, which aims to create a one-stop shop providing technical assistance and farmer support for agro production, processing, logistics, marketing and training within the West Rand District Municipality. There are significant investments in the green energy sector as well. These include the Mirafong Bioenergy Park, which entails the establishment of an energy conversion industrial park in Mirafong, West Rand, that will provide numerous opportunities presented by the green economy. Other investments include Mirafong Solar, which aims to create solar farms with the potential to generate 800 megawatt from the solar PV. The energy will fit into the ESCOM grid as part of renewable energy independent power producer program, procurement program, as well as to independent private off-takers. All this is aimed at stabilizing and ensuring energy security in the province so as to strengthen and expand its manufacturing, mining, agro-processing, and other industries. Significant investments have also been made in water infrastructure by the national, provincial, and local government. These include the construction of the Vlakfontein Reservoir, the largest post-tension reservoir in the country. This is also the largest secular post-tension reservoir in the world. Over the last 10 years, more than 50 reservoirs have been constructed in Gauteng province to augment water storage across the various systems. Other infrastructure projects currently underway in Gauteng at various stages of development include the Automotive Industry Development Center Inland Port, whose aim is to help the automotive industry to overcome current logistics inefficiencies brought by having multitude of private terminals that constantly run into PRASA lines in the region. The inland port will become the main automotive consolidation terminal linking directly into the main Transnet freight rail line. Linked to this is the AIDC solar that was set up specifically to manage the automotive supply logistics node, provide a value proposition to suppliers of the major original equipment manufacturers in Gauteng by grouping different technologies, services, and service providers in the same location to achieve economies of scale and logistical coherence. Recently, the Gauteng Provincial Government announced the establishment of a state-owned pharmaceutical company with the view to establish, and of course the bank, with the view to establish a state-owned pharmaceutical company. We're concluding the legal processes to convert our Gauteng Medical Supply Depot into a standalone Schedule 3C public entity, which will operate in the healthcare industry and allow us to buy bulk medicine directly. This will go a long way in strengthening our supply chain and distribution processes to ensure that our sourcing and delivering of medicines to our healthcare facilities is done securely, efficiently, and on time. This will go a long way in ensuring the readiness of the province and South Africa broadly to manage epidemics as well as prepare for universal healthcare coverage that is crucial in the advancement of the public health system. In addition, Gauteng is expanding its export base by supporting export-oriented industries, particularly those with high growth potential, such as advanced manufacturing and digital technology. Through targeted programs to GPG, the GPG aims to provide resources and international market connections to local businesses, enabling them to compete on a global scale. Building partnerships with key trading partners within Africa and beyond will further facilitate cross-border trade, creating a more interconnected and prosperous regional economy. The worsening state of public finances may hinder the government's ability to initiate other planned capital expenditure projects. This, in turn, may also affect municipal infrastructure grants as the fiscal resources continue to decline, and so in infrastructure investment that is crucial for economic growth. However, investment, particularly from the private sector, will become a much-needed catalyst for growth as the energy crisis necessitates additional power generation capacity. Honorable members, I will now turn to the adjustment budget. I will now turn to the adjustment budget. Yeah, no chairs. While the main appropriation allocates resources for the financial year, it can be revised during the adjustment budget, which is for unforeseeable, unavoidable expenditure, as expenditure that could not be anticipated at the time of the main budget. Proper application of the adjustment budget process does not allow for a window to allocate additional funding. This eliminates the challenge of underspending at the end of the financial year. The adjustment budget also formalizes the shifting of funds within and between votes, some of which cannot be done at any time, as well as the incorporation of conditional and provincial equitable share funds from the preceding financial year. The adjustments budget is being tabled at the time when Gauteng provincial government is constrained, and not only by the outlined economic environment, but also the reality of the importance for a credible debt management policy, considering the implications of the e-tolls debt on the provincial fiscals. A total of 1.2 billion will be rolled over to the 2024-2025 financial year from the 2023-2024 financial year, comprising of 920.9 million in conditional grants and 282.5 million in provincial equitable share funds. These funds are for defraying prior year expenditure for various departments relating to goods and services and commitments in payments for capital assets. In the 2024-2025 financial year, our budget will be adjusted upward with an amount of 2.1 billion as follows. For the Office of the Premier, an amount of 135 million, of which 73.9 million is for outstanding life asset demanding claims, 57.4 million for the Commission of Inquiry at Usindiso Building Fire, and 4.2 million for South African Police Services Security to the Commission of Inquiry. For the Gauteng Provincial Legislature, an amount of 53.7 million to provide for operational requirements and funding support for political parties represented in the legislature in line with the requirements of the Constitution of South Africa and Financial Management of Parliament and Provincial Legislature Act. Furthermore, so these are your salaries, it means you can clap, yeah. Furthermore, it is important to emphasize that the Gauteng provincial government will not be cutting jobs in education, health, or any of the sectors that have been impacted by the budget cuts. So this is very important, Honorable Premier. Therefore, the following additional allocations are being made to partially offset pressures in compensation of employees: an amount of 600 million for the Department of Health, an amount of 300 million for the Department of Education, an amount of 70 million for the Department of Social Development, an amount of 59 million for the Department of Environment, an amount of 42.2 million for the Department of Infrastructure Department. As part of supporting the most vulnerable members of society, an additional amount of 221.8 million is allocated to reinstate the budget allocated to the non-profit making institutions, commonly known as NPOs, which will take back their baseline to 2.1 billion. An additional amount of 109 million is allocated to the Department of Human Settlement to fund interim sanitation. An amount of 260 million is allocated to roads and transport, of which 250 million is to cover the shortfall in the Gauteng patronage guarantee. A contractual commitment and balance of that 10 million will go towards goods and services. For community safety, an amount of 68.5 million is reallocated, which comprises interdepartmental receivables balances, which are funds spent on behalf of the other organs of state. As part of enhancing the capacity of the state, we are allocating an amount of 8.3 million for the establishment of the Department of Environment, of which 2.4 and 5.8 is for establishment of the Office of the HOD and the Office of the MEC, respectively. We also allocate an amount of 150 million to the Department of E-Government towards the replacement of obsolete equipment for the Gauteng provincial network. Additionally, an amount of 128 million is allocated to the Department of Infrastructure Development for office accommodation. In conclusion, honorable members, given the maintenance of fiscal discipline, the province will prioritize the reprioritization of budgets, identification of efficiency gains, and making trade-offs to fund the government priorities. Fiscal discipline requires that governments maintain fiscal positions that are consistent with macroeconomic stability and sustained economic growth. Furthermore, provincial departments and entities must explore alternative sources of funding to supplement the existing constrained revenue streams and thus enhance fiscal sustainability over the long term. Partnerships with private sector, donor funding, developmental finance institutions are amongst the possible alternative funding sources. The provincial government also views public-private partnerships as a key vehicle to not only deliver infrastructure, but for its ability to stimulate the economy, create jobs and deliver projects within cost, time and quality, whilst providing the upfront funding for these projects. Therefore, triple Ps with revenue-raising potential will be prioritized. This and other outlined initiatives will put Gauteng on track to maintaining its status as the nerve center of the national, regional, and continental economy. It is critical that at this juncture of the policy statement, I must pause to thank the Honorable Premier, the colleagues in the Executive Council for the commitment that they have demonstrated in making sure that Gauteng is truly alive with possibilities. I'm thankful to the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee of Finance, Honorable Musai, and the entire committee members for the phenomenal work that they continue to do. The Speaker, the Honorable Musupye, and the Deputy Speaker, Honorable Manamela, are also deeply appreciated for the support that they are providing to the work of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature and the broader provincial government. But we'll also like to thank the Chair of Chairs, Honorable Adams, the Deputy Chair of Chairs, Honorable Kunene, and gratitude must also go to all members of the legislature who make sure that checks and balances are in place, ensuring that we do not deviate from our program of action. A special thanks to the head of the Department of Finance, Ms. Numi Samyani, all the DGGs, all the chief directors, all the directors, all the deputy directors, all the assistant directors, and all staff of Treasury for working hard, making sure that this budget is what it is today. I'm also grateful to the senior managers, as I've said, in the Treasury on the architecture of this medium-term budget. And I will also want to thank all MMCs of finance in our municipalities for their unwavering dedication to stabilizing finances and economies in our municipalities against difficult circumstances, thereby ensuring that we continue to build an economy that grows in the hands of our communities. My gratitude also goes out to the media for its commitment to ensuring that the work of the department and the broader Gauteng provincial government is communicated to the residents of our province. And finally, I would like to thank the residents of Gauteng, our primary stakeholders, with whom we can and will build a Gauteng that works. I wish to conclude this presentation with a statement from Jawaharlal Nehru, the former Prime Minister of India, who once said, and I quote, "Crises and deadlocks, when they occur, have at least this advantage. They force us to think," and I close quote. Now is the time to reassess the priorities, efficiency in how resources are managed. So, Madam Speaker, I hereby bring the 2.1 billion in cash. So I hereby table the Gauteng Provincial Adjustments Appropriation Bill of 2024. I'm also presenting the 2024 medium-term budget policy statement. I'm also presenting the 2024 adjusted estimates of provincial revenue and expenditure, the 2024 adjusted estimates of capital expenditure, and the copy of my speech. So thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Chair. Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, honorable members. Thank you very much, Honorable MEC for Finance, MEC Maile. Honorable members, that concludes the business for the day. And the next sitting will be tomorrow, Wednesday, 27th of November at 10 o'clock. The House is adjourned. So, Girang, it's a big. Oh. Who's